Damn, Hunter, I'm not supposed to snort iron brew through my mouth.
This is COYB, the podcast by and for the owners of the Caledonian Braves. Join us each episode as we dive into the stories, passion, and people behind Scotland's most forward-thinking football club. We'll talk with owners, fans, players, and staff about what it really means to be brave. So grab your merch, settle in, and let's get started.
Welcome to COYB, the podcast, the unofficial voice of the Caledonian Braves, where owners become storytellers and the global football community meets and talks all things Caledonian Braves. I'm Hunter Ekval, your host, and one of over 8,500 fellow Braves owners worldwide, bringing you behind the scenes with the people shaping the future of football, because together we got power. And with me is Lord Marc Cavender of Strathclyde Park. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Hunter. I'm so thrilled to be here today.
I am thrilled to have you. This is one of the episodes I was looking forward to doing.
Oh, boy.
We met at Owners Weekend for the first time, but we had talked on the Discord before that, right?
Yep. Several times. We kind of going back and forth in our love for Keith and all that he does for the broadcast and game day experience. So we were really chummy before we hugged it out in Glasgow.
Yeah, we are both members of the Keith Mack fan club.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just get started. Let's get in with the podcast, get in with the questions. First question, I've already said it, but what's your name and where do you live?
Well, my government name is Marc Cavender, and I live in Colorado, just outside of Denver. So I'm very much based in the U.S., but thanks to the Braves, a good chunk of my heart and my headspace lives in Scotland now.
As it does for all of us. So what do you do? What's your job?
Do you like this gig? That wasn't the question. Do you like your job? I mean, do you like being chief of police?
Yeah, right. I work in hospitality. I'm a general manager, so I lead teams. I run restaurants. Build systems that help people succeed. So at its core, what I do is people. I'm in the people industry, so culture, communications, and just creating environments where folks can show up and do their best work.
Okay, awesome. How did you first discover the Caledonian Braves, and what made you decide that you wanted to be an owner to invest in this team?
Yeah, I came across the Braves through targeted advertising on Facebook. It was an ad that said something, about, become a football owner today. So, what kind of just stopped me from doom scrolling was the video of Chris. It was pretty funny. It was self-aware and just kind of brutally honest. It basically said, you're probably not as handsome as Ryan Reynolds or buff as Rob McElhenney, but you can still own a football club. So the humor part of that really pulled me in. But I'd say what really hooked it for me was just the access and the participation aspect of it. It was a genuine invitation to help build something in Scotland. So looked into it, found the WE funder and everything. And, it was clear to me that it wasn't, one of those Scottish pyramid schemes of, buying a title or anything. It was a values driven project. And, that really mattered to me.
And hey, I think you're as handsome as Rob and Ryan.
Oh, definitely nowhere near as buff, though.
So what made you decide to become an owner?
For me, it just really kind of came down to alignment. I saw that Caledonian Braves was talking openly about transparency and sustainability. And, they were, really, really thinking about the bigger picture and, long-term thinking. So those are aspects that I care deeply about, in my leadership life. So I'd say organically, becoming an owner didn't feel like buying merch, just following a team, is accepting responsibility, the culture, the people, and the future of the club. So I feel like I'm going to be a broken record talking about culture and people, but that's what I bring to the table for the organization.
At what point did you realize this club was going to be more than something that you followed from afar? Like you knew that it was going to be part of you?
So I invested mid 2024, found my way into the US owners group on Facebook, joined Discord, so at first it was interesting, but still a little abstract. And what changed everything for me was realizing, that there are so many other people that had taken the same leap of faith as myself. Thousands of owners all over the world were all choosing to believe in the same idea. And then the Christmas campaign hits, so I think I was at about 4,000, 5,000 strong when I joined, and then Christmas hit, and then we doubled down to, almost 9,000, if not 9,000 plus. So that's the moment for me that it clicked. I hadn't just joined something. I joined it at a moment with real momentum. So that kind of made me want to show up a little bit more intentionally, not just be a casual observer.
Are you a soccer fan, football fan? Do you follow any other clubs?
I'll be honest, I wasn't a massive football supporter prior to the Braves. Like a lot of people, my bridge was the storytelling. So Ted Lasso, welcome to Wrexham. I know that Jen really kind of touched on that last time, but I'm very similar in that. I found Ted Lasso at a time when my mental health was not at its peak, and Ted Lasso actually encouraged me to get into therapy and start my psychiatric treatment. So, that I fell in love with football, not because of the sport, but because of how serious the storytelling was. And the documentary, Welcome to Wrexham. We've watched all 4 seasons of that. Brooke and I we did an interview while we were in LA at the Wrexham versus Birmingham City match at Cosm. Met Rob McElhenney and Caitlin Olsen, shot an interview for season 4, Welcome to Wrexham. So yep, that was a whole bunch of fun. So I got into it because of the storytelling, but once I'm in, I'm all in. I don't half-ass passion projects. The curiosity of it turned into full-blown commitment, because now we're traveling for matches, we're building rituals, and we're really caring about the club. So
I think our journeys are very similar, because Ted Lasso, during the pandemic, we fell in love with it. After Wrexham, I was looking for other things. I was like, oh, I need something to scratch that. Yeah, I need to scratch that itch. And I saw online people were talking about Sunderland Till You Die. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'd heard Rob talk about it and has said that was a big reason why they did the documentary, was because of that documentary. And then I watched it and I was just like, oh my God, it's opposite Wrexham. It's everything is going wrong. Like they're starting and they just keep dropping. So yeah, that one was.
Yes. Really, with emphasis on the till I die part. We've taken in Necaxa on FX as well. Eva Longoria's Mexican team.
Yeah. How was that?
So that's been a good series. Oh, it's a really good series, and Rob's involved with it as well. I think he's got a stake in Necaxa as well, but that's a good series to watch too. It's like Wrexham with a little Latino flair.
Well, we are from Texas, so we do appreciate a little Latino flair.
Yes.
So compared to the other clubs that you follow, how does Braves fandom compare?
It compares, but it doesn't, because it's unique and it's organic. The intensity of fandom is pretty similar. I have multiple AFC Richmond jerseys. I've got a lot of Wrexham kits too. So the intensity is similar, but with the Braves, it just feels different. It feels personal. I'm not a celebrity owner by any means. I'm a well-fed guy from the mountains of Colorado with a little disposable income. The emotional investment is just as real for me. It feels like belonging. There is a local grassroots love and appreciation for it, and having seen the videos recently of the little Glasgow meetups, and these are things that I would think would be happening, weekly, but seeing the grassroots campaign taking off and seeing Glaswegian owners connecting much like we're doing here on the US front, it's so wonderful to watch. I love having that stake in the game of growing the brand and the identity in Glasgow, and now seeing it actually take shape. I cannot wait to see what this looks like, a year from now. I'm really looking forward to how many folks are actually going to start turning out, putting butts in seats, and not even putting butts in seats. I love standing behind the goal post when I'm there, so just having folks turn out and be brave. I'm really looking forward to that. And that fandom and that camaraderie, that is how I feel like I'm there a little more in spirit, is seeing the community grow, not just globally, but locally.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Keith brought up during his interview. I kept thinking, oh, we need to have butts in seats. We need to have butts in seats. And Keith very intelligently said, why? Is it more important to have 100 people watching there at Alliance Park, or is it more important to have 200 people watching online from around the world?
Right.
And I kind of was like, oh man, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, you're right. It's not like the club is going to live or die because of the people that are coming to watch it at Alliance Park.
Right.
Have you, and I kind of know the answer to this because I've seen the stuff you post on Facebook, and you're one of the people that has started the Zoom matchups, but have you connected with other Braves owners in your area and online?
Oh, several. That's been one of the best parts. I've met owners locally through watch parties that I've hosted. I've met people like Dennis, Jim, Chris up in Longmont. My boy Phoenix just moved here to go to school at BU, so it was good to see him on the Zoom the other day. I'm looking forward to meeting him in person. Lori was in town from Idaho. I got to meet up with her and have some beers. As I mentioned, when we went out to LA for the Wrexham match, met up with Denise at a brewery near SpaceX's place in Hawthorne. So, when I'm on the road, I'm trying to meet people. So just, having the tattoo makes me a 24/7 brand ambassador. I've made real friendships from this, people I now talk to regularly, people that I care about. And I've even discovered by complete accident that a close friend of mine here locally in Colorado was also a Braves owner. I'd just gotten back from Owners Weekend, and I had the Braves badge tattooed in my hand. One of the very first people to get a Braves tattoo, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure. But when he saw it, everything just clicked. He's like, "Are you an owner of the Caledonian Braves?" And I just look at him. I'm like, "Why, yes, I am." He's a COO of a local brewery here, and he was at my bar just there to kind of talk shop, do business, sell some kegs. Saw that tattoo, and our bromance just blossomed. Trying to work on getting an in-person watch party scheduled at his brewery. It's a little out of the way from Denver, but it would be meaningful and impactful if we did something at Left Hand Brewing because of that connection. These connections, they mean so much to me. So I would say that I have connected with people online and locally.
And ourselves. We've connected.
You and me.
Yeah, online and locally as well.
Yes.
What's the weirdest or coolest reaction that you've gotten from someone when you tell them, "Oh yeah, I own a Scottish soccer team"?
Man, I gotta tell you, the disbelief never gets old. Most conversations start with my tattoo. People ask what it means, and when I tell them that I co-own a football club in Scotland, there's just kind of always a pause. It's like, what? So I'd say probably one of my favorite moments was the day that Adam dropped the Owners Weekend recap video on YouTube. I was training at a new restaurant, and my training manager gave me a moment, just kind of take it in, because I was like, "Hey, I've been waiting for this video for a few months now, and can I just take some time to watch it?" Because I think Adam was actually doing a live YouTube watch party for it too. So I was like, I just want to be a part of this. So they're like, "Yeah, absolutely, just throw it on." So I watched the Owners Weekend video in the kitchen, and then suddenly when the people that were training me realized that they were watching me on YouTube, it turned into this great moment where I got to share, what we had built in Glasgow. So it made it feel even more real, and it brought that Caledonian magic back into this kitchen in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Just sharing the love of Owners Weekend is one of the things that just excites me. You know, it never gets old. I'm going to go grab an iron brew really quick so I'm not as parched.
We stop the pod, emergency pause. Iron brew break, it's basically law. Dear Iron Brew, sponsor us please. Don't sue the pod, we're fueled by love.
It's only appropriate to have an iron brew during the podcast.
I love it.
Iron Brew highs and Braves collide. Best drink, best club, side by side. Caledonian heart so true. Come on, you Braves, crack the brew.
Okay, so you've become one of the most recognizable owner voices for the club. Did that happen naturally, or is that something you consciously stepped into?
I wouldn't say I stepped into it or really even asked for it. So I'd say it was natural. In my professional life, I'm used to stepping in when clarity or calm is needed. So that instinct is kind of carried over here for me. You know, not trying to be a voice. I just show up honestly and I just try to be helpful. So over time, people connect with that. And I've taken that responsibility pretty seriously, I'd say.
During Owners Weekend, your interviews really resonated with a lot of people, and you were very well spoken, and you spoke from the heart, and you spoke very eloquently about the club and about your love of the club and how that weekend was happening. What were you trying to communicate in those moments?
First off, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a put me in the spotlight kind of guy. I would say a lot of what happened during Owners Weekend was because Jen Burke very kindly voluntold me to do it. So, once I was there, though, the message I was trying to convey was pretty simple. The Caledonian Braves are an effort. It's an initiative. It's something that is actively being built. I love being part of evolutionary projects, and this is one of them. What I wanted people to feel was that it's something that you can be a part of. I'm a Braves fanatic, and you can be too. So that was my message.
What do you think people connect with when they hear you talk about the club?
I think it's honesty. I don't oversell things. I speak from care and belief and, respect for the process. So people can tell when something comes from a genuine place.
How important is it for owners to help tell the club's story in their own words?
I think it's essential. We now have almost 9,000 owners from more than 60 countries. So with that kind of scale, that story can't come from one voice. It's not the Caledonian Braves. So we've got service industry folks. We've got ER nurses. We have teachers, lawyers, engineers. We have freaking rocket scientists. But everybody brings their own meaning to what it means to be brave. And Caledonia is all of us. Our football club is an amalgamation of what everybody brings to the table.
Love it. Okay, you've been a bridge between the club and other owners. What does that responsibility mean to you?
I'd say it means more listening than talking. My role isn't to gatekeep. It's to help people feel heard, feel connected, and definitely respected. If communication stays human, everything else gets easier. So, I'd love to give some mad props to Tom. He's done so much behind the scenes in helping, not only craft the leadership council, but also what we're building towards the owners liaison committee. So, I'm here to support. I want to help make everybody everywhere matter and feel appreciated, for as little or as much as they want to do for the club. So as much as Tom is a conduit between the people up top of the organization now to the ownership committee, I want to do that for the owners worldwide.
Why do you think building real relationships between owners is so important to the long-term success of the Caledonian Braves?
Look at us, Hunter. Our bromance started in Glasgow, and here I am now as your podcast guest. So finding this group of similarly minded weirdos has been genuinely good for my soul. These are real friendships. Jen Burke is like a best friend in life to me now. With them coming to Denver and staying with Brooke and myself, I can't wait to show friends that I met across the ocean around my hometown. So I wouldn't trade these relationships for anything. It's that kind of connection that makes Caledonian Braves as a club that much stronger.
Yeah, I love telling the story of, I guess it was the Monday after Owners Weekend 1 when we had dinner.
Yeah.
And it was, we had run into Dan at the Sterling Castle tour and said, hey, we're going to have dinner with Brooke and Mark.
Right.
Do you want to have dinner with us? And he was like, sure. And so I called you, or I texted you and said, hey, is it cool if Dan comes? Yeah, absolutely. Lauren and I were walking in Glasgow with you guys. I think you guys were all three ahead of us a little bit. And Lauren and I were back. And, we just moved to DC like 5-6 years ago. Mm. And I was like, it's crazy that we're in Glasgow and I could call up 3 friends and say, hey, you want to have dinner?
Right.
And that's not something I can do in DC.
Aw.
It's nice finding this new group of friends that Jen said was like a family. And I said was like a weird family. So.
Yeah. And, we have our weird family reunion at Scottish Chili's.
Yeah, that's right. Scottish Chili's.
Right. I mean, I'd have to go on Facebook to look back and tell you what the name of it was. I just know it as Scottish Chili's.
Yeah. It was something fox, wasn't it? Sleeping fox or flying fox or something.
I think there was a fox involved.
Yeah. They should be called Scottish Chili's, though. Because just like Chili's, they were delicious. In case Chili's wants to sponsor this podcast. What moment made you think that there was something special with this club, that this whole adventure was going to be something special?
It wasn't a match, and I wouldn't even say it was Owners Weekend, but I'd say it's been the conversations that have been held, that I've either been a part of or observed on Facebook or Discord or whatnot, match day banter and whatnot. It's again, the storytelling. So hearing owners speak with patience and pride and care. I mean, when Keith goes on, just like, I want to tell you, like, I need an episode 2 and an episode 3 follow-up of Keith on your podcast. Like I would have been content if your episode with Keith was 4 hours long. I could listen to him read a Scottish phone book. I'd just like to go on record saying that. So, it's the stories and it's the care. Like, I know Keith shows up, on a match day, with his pad, his information on it, on, all the players and everything. But what he brings to the table in the storytelling of the Lowlands League and, our direct competitors, like, it makes me give a damn. I couldn't point to where Bonnie Rig Rose is on a map. I could tell you I drove by it when I was driving to Sterling for a tour, but he makes you care. And it's other owners. It's conversations that we have on our Zoom watch parties. It's stories over beers at a brewery with friends that are in from out of town. It's the conversations, that's when I knew that the Braves are something different.
Let me just say this. Keith Mack is definitely going to be on this podcast again.
Yeah. It used to be Morgan Freeman, but I would listen to Keith 23 of the 24 hours out of a day. And that 1 hour, I just need a little bit of silence because I'm waking up.
I think it's funny when Ricky at Owners Weekend was talking and he started off with, I know you guys aren't going to really understand everything I say. And I was like, because of listening to Keith and Ricky and Chris for like a year,
yeah,
I was like, I actually do understand everything that you're saying.
And to second your point from Jen's podcast, Ricky Waddle is a very lovely human being, and he needs to hear that a little more often.
Yeah, he is lovely. He comes across as very scary at first, and then once you pour a couple of fireball shots down his throat, he becomes very lovable. How do you describe the Caledonian Braves to someone who's never heard of them before?
I tell folks that the Caledonian Braves are a community first football club where supporters are owners. They're not kept at arm's length. We're invited in. It's a living, evolving project that's built on values, transparency, and intention. As I kind of said in my interview video from Owners Weekend, if you're looking for a club that treats supporters like consumers, this isn't it. If you want to belong, we might be your people. So, I'm hesitant to use the M word, but we're not a money making merch machine. So definitely more of a community that is in it for the long haul to see the club become something a little bit more than just fifth year football club. So a good chunk of us are in it for the right reasons. We want to see the club advance. We want to see the club succeed. We'd love to climb the ladder, but there are a few folks that, they may have made their investment because they wanted a $500 t-shirt, and unfortunately some of them may still be waiting on stuff like that. But nonetheless, we're a village, and it takes a village, so we're all invested in onwards and upwards for the organization.
What do you hope that people say about the Caledonian Braves 5 or 10 years from now?
That we did it the right way, that we stayed true to our values and built something that people were proud to belong to. So everything that we're kind of already doing, just at a grander, well-executed scale, I suppose. I hope to be a part of that in a local capacity in 5 to 10 years. Brooke and I are very genuinely considering the aspect of moving over to Glasgow. I touched on that a little bit when we did the webinar in December, that 5-year plan is to move to Scotland. We fell in love with it, Owners Weekend, and we're really looking forward to going back for Owners Weekend. But I wouldn't say it's the global climate or anything right now that's driving us to do so. Caledonia is calling, and I got to go home.
Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home.
I want to help the club grow, if it's at a, hospitality level, bringing my talents and aspects to the club. If it's just getting out there and, bringing my edginess and fandom to it, and saying, hey, Marc Cavender's here and wants you to experience the Caledonian Braves. Chris said that I should get a job with the Scottish Board of Tourism or something. So I believe in the project at such a grand scale that I want to go be a part of it a little more 24/7.
Kind of dovetailing into that, how do you see the club itself in 5 to 10 years? Like, what are you hoping to see the team and the club itself be in that time?
At the Owners Summit part of Owners Weekend, Friday night, when we were talking about, what's coming down the pipeline, the talk of, having our own home, not renting Alliance Park anymore. It's a beautiful spot. I love it. I love being the Lord of Strathclyde Park because it's just beautiful and amazing. The drone footage just, carries me away. But we need our own home. We need to stop paying a landlord. We need a place to be brave ourselves. That Friday night, there was a location that they had talked about for building a new stadium and arena. Brooke and I had a rental car, so we drove by it, and I was like, okay, this is not particularly where I would see an arena right now, but I could go for it. I could get behind it. So building our own stadium, having a place that we can proudly throw our identity, being significantly closer to Glasgow. I love Motherwell. It's a beautiful spot out there, but I think we could tap into a little more of the Glaswegian local community if we built a little closer. So 5 to 10 years, it'd be great to see our own stadium a little closer to the metropolitan center. But I love where we are now. There's nothing like a match day experience at the hospitality suite of the Holiday Inn next door. But yeah, I'd love to see us kind of coming into our own and growing up and actually pursuing our own venue that we can call home. And when we step on the pitch in our stadium, like, yeah, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. So I'm looking forward to that. I stay true to ourselves and the values, but build something tangible and build a community. But I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it every step of the day. I'm very much looking forward to it.
I'm going to be honest. After owners weekend, when we got home, I looked up where it was on the map and started looking at houses around where the stadium was. I was like, these are affordable. Like,
yeah,
some of them weren't, but some of them were. I was like, I could see myself living here and then walking to the stadium.
Right.
How do you see the role of owners evolving as this club grows?
I'd say as we evolve, owners are going to become the culture carriers. Owners help protect the identity of the club as it scales. So it's on us to make sure that growth never comes at the expense of our core values. We're the torchbearers. We're the guardians of the future. So what we say matters. What we do helps shape the future. So we got to build that culture. And Chris and the team in both Paris and Glasgow, they're doing a phenomenal job. And I think they have so much on their plate because they knew what they were getting into when they started the We Funder. I think it surpassed their expectations exponentially. And here we are about a year after it's closed, and we're just now really kind of getting our footing and determining, what next steps should be, what that should look like. The leadership council has done great work on really building the skeleton of, the business model side of things, the things that casual owners, such as ourselves, don't really take into consideration. We threw money at a project because we wanted some cool pins, stickers, and shirts. But these are the people that are making sure that the business end of things are taken care of day in and day out. So for us as owners, we've got to build that culture. We got to carry that on, and we got to stick true to our identity and our values. So I got a little long-winded, but we're the culture carriers, I'd say.
Now you've literally got skin in the game. I was there when you got the hand tattoo.
Yeah.
Tell us about the tattoos.
So I wanted to bring a piece of Caledonia home with me, and I had it in my head that I was going to get a tattoo while I was there regardless. It had been quite some time since my last tattoo, and career kind of got the best of me, and was like, but in doing the pilgrimage to Glasgow, I felt it prudent to take something home to remind me of it. So went to a little shop not far from the social hub where we were staying for owners weekend, and it was a walk-in appointment. I mean, I printed the club badge on the printer from social hub and it was just a very casual walk-in, do this on Sunday morning sort of thing. Fortunately, I had some some pound notes with me to get a tattoo, but dude took my design, 75 pounds, and inked me up. So a literal badge of honor when I meet folks, and I go for a handshake, I'm presenting the club informally. I'm an always on brand ambassador, and that handshake, is like, oh, what's that about? I met one of my hourly employees when I did her interview and went for a handshake. So like, oh, is that Wu-Tang? I'm like, no, this is not Wu-Tang. But no, it's very forward presenting. So I'm very proud of that. My Braves badge tattoo is about permanence. It's a reminder that this isn't casual or temporary for me. It's commitment to the club. It's commitment to the Glaswegian community and what we're building together, because together we've got something. I don't remember what it is. So yeah, that was my first tattoo. And then I have a set of Cav tattoos that I designed, collaborated with an artist here locally. So for my birthday, second week of December, I went to the shop, and it was supposed to be Blucifer, the big blue demon horse statue outside of Denver International Airport. That was supposed to be my birthday tattooed myself, but instead my artist got mixed up and had the stencil for my follow-up tattoo, which was the Duke of Wellington statue outside the Gallery of Modern Art there in Glasgow. That's one of my most favorite photos of you and me, is with Lauren and posing with the Duke with the cone on his head. So when I think Owners Weekend, that's one of the photos I flash back to. With that horse statue concept in mind, I picked Blucifer to represent my American home here in Denver. So he's very prominent on my right calf, but the Duke of Wellington with the cone on his head and everything, he is on my left calf. So I've got both those horse statues facing each other. So my Scottish home and my Colorado home are represented on my legs at all times, but my Braves tattoo on my right hand, that's my heart, that's my love, that's my passion. So reminds me daily of what we're building together.
Love it. I love it. And you know what? The Phoenix, I'm looking at it right now and I was like, it does look like a Wu-Tang tattoo. Like, yeah, Wu-Tang is forever.
It's for the children.
Yeah. I'm like, now I can't stop. Now it won't go away. All right, and that's the final whistle for this episode of COYB, the podcast, where passion meets the pitch and ownership has a voice. If you're enjoying the journey, don't forget to subscribe, share the show with a fellow Braves owner, and follow us on Instagram. Until next time, respect all, fear none.
Come on, you Braves.
This has been COYB, the podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
This has been a production of Double Bit Media.